It is a indeed honor to be on a panel with Subbu sir and Dr. Vinit. I think both of them talked about why it is so important for institution when we look at a future. Finally, it's this institution which are going to build this future for India. Similarly, as Satya talked about, we have participants from other parts of the world, especially from global south, and the whole, the economy is going to shift. The center of gravity is going to be here, and that's where we have a huge potential. That if you look at the next couple of years, Dr. Vinit talked about the enabling environment which government has created. And now it's up to us as an institutional leader to, see how do we build each of our institution so that we become global leader. It's a great opportunity because India soon is going to be our third largest economy. And I think both contributing to knowledge to India and the world, it's in general taking global south as a leadership. What I'm going to share with you in terms of certain lessons which we have picked up from certain leaders like Professor Partha, but also understanding what does it mean to lead a higher education academic institution. There are certain characteristics of higher education which allows us, which also needs to, which results in dealing it in a different way than probably we'll see leadership in a corporate world or a business world. For example, if you look at any global ranking, for example, let's say if you look at a QS global ranking, and if you look at a top 10 institutions in the world, right now, they come from North America and Europe, right? But there's something interesting in terms of, if you look at the top 10 institutions in the world, what you will find is each of them is at least 125-year-old. Somewhere, it's a very interesting characteristic of higher education that, somewhere it's not necessarily all the older institution will be great institution, but somewhere it takes a long time to build a great institution. So somewhere one of the first lessons for all of us would be that when we talk about building to a potential, we need to work with a much longer horizon. And that's why I think ideas of talking about 2047 or at least talking about at least 10 to 20 years is important. You're not going to achieve the kind of results which we would like to see in a 2 years, 5 years kind of thing. So first, when you talk about building vision for the institution, building potential, do make sure that you talk about preferably 20 years horizon goal with a 2047. Second characteristic is, but at the same time, let me tell you, it doesn't mean that we don't have to wait that long. There have been few institutions, if you look at again within the top 100 institutions in the world, there are 6 or 7 institutions which have been able to come into that list in less than 50 years. And there are interesting lessons which we can learn from. Now, for example, there's a Hong Kong University of Science and Technology at Hong Kong. There's a Singapore NTU. There's a Korean University. There are a couple of institutes which seems to have built this in a shorter horizon. And it'll be good to learn from that. And one of the things which we learn from those institutions is you can't be good in everything. You'll have to identify few areas in which you want to build reputation. So somewhere identifying that what are the few key areas on which you want your institution to be known for. I think that would be very critical. Right? For example, at IIM Udaipur, when we were starting, we decided one of the areas we want to work on is a high quality research. Now, anybody would tell you that if you want to publish in a top quality journal, you look at any project you take up, from the concept to finally getting published, it takes at least 5 year kind of time. Now, somewhere if you want to build a high quality institution, somewhere one will have to keep those issues in mind. And related issue is the higher education is also fragmented. So when it talked about 60,000 plus institutions, right? So we're talking about, and because of this nature of fragmentation, somewhere if you want to be getting recognized, you have to identify the few areas on which you want to focus. Rather than saying, I'm going to be excellent in everything, here are 3 areas on which I want to focus. And depending on your own ambition and your own resources, for example, you might decide that I want to be the best institution in Bombay. I think that's fine, right? So I think you decide what you want to be known for and make sure you make those necessary trade-offs, because each of us are making certain hard decisions, right? And unless you identify these are the few areas I want to work on, then you will find you will not be able to build a great institution, because if you want to spread yourself too thin, we all of us have as an institution leader, a limited resources. So identifying the areas on which we want to build focus on is a very important part. So I think keeping this in mind, one of the first thing, that idea of a longer horizon, identifying fewer areas on which you want to focus. And, so what one will have to do is to first build a, vision for oneself. As I said, identify where you want to excel, how you want to be known for. And you will find that once you do that exercise, the creating that vision, you will find then obviously all your processes in terms of the way you're going to allocate resources, the way you're going to attract faculty, the way you're going to, promote faculty, right, will all depend on that part. And all of us have learned that in a hard way, that unless, you have aligned processes, you will not be able to build, that excellence. For example, if you want to say that I want to focus on interdisciplinary, projects, high quality projects, the way you're going to design your systems are going to be very different from the institution which focuses primarily on a discipline-based research. So somewhere that identifying that where do you want to focus and building all the systems and processes around it. Once you've done that part, which, and again, related issue is because in a higher education institution, you have a large number of stakeholders. You have a student, you have a faculty, you have a staff, you have government, central government, state government, society, your recruiters. Now, each one of them are going to pull the institution in some direction. So if you're not defined a vision for yourself, you will find every time, some ranking would come, some placement, would talk about certain areas on which you need to focus, certain new technology will come, and you will find you will get drawn into different pools and directions unless you created a vision for yourself. And for example, we decided to use a framework which, was C.K. Prahlad had created in terms of what he called, strategic intent. We're saying that if you're in a fragmented industry and if you're a newcomer, how do you decide where do you want to focus? We talked about certain loose bricks. So looking at a nature of competition, where do you decide to focus? So essentially one will have to identify. The second important thing would be the partnerships. Finally, For example, this idea that, you cannot do everything yourself. So for example, if my Sathi has created a outstanding, system for giving you high quality pool of this thing, you may want to use that, right? Because, rather than saying that everything, including my selection, including, every part of value chain I want to do myself, then again, you would not be able to excel. So this idea that how do you use those partnership in a creative way, it's going to be a very important exercise for the leader part. The another important this part would be to, traditionally, one of the challenge which we have faced in Indian institution is, faculty gets involved in everything. All part of academic administration is also done by faculty. Right? Somewhere figuring it out that is there a way we can free up faculty time by using professionals. One is set of partners, other is using professionals. So for example, making sure that we use faculty primarily for research and teaching, right? Rather than a whole lot of academic administration. We find that a lot of, institutions have faculty spending enormous time on academic administration. So somewhere cutting that down and free up faculty time would be a very important, exercise. So the idea of creating a vision, then ensuring that you create right culture and values. Now, all of us have a culture statement, but somewhere ensuring that, your faculty, students, just to give one example, right? When we talk about a transparency, right? Can we ensure we have a transparency in our admission? Can we ensure we have a transparency in the promotion policies? Right? So I think when we talk about any particular value or a culture, we'll have to make sure we translate it in terms of for our faculty and students. Because, for a high quality knowledge institution like academic institution, important that, we create an environment. The government, the way Dr. Vinay talked about government creating environment, it's the same thing talking about within institution, how do we create environment where faculty and student excel? We try and attract outstanding faculty, outstanding student, but within institution, if we don't create that environment where they can excel, then we're going to fail ourselves. So somewhere creating that culture, especially because, the most faculty you're going to hire are going to be expert in their own area. So unless we create that freedom and provide that culture, we're not going to achieve the kind of goals which we're talking about. So the idea of creating a vision, creating, culture, systems and processes. And this is where one will have to make those hard choices, because a lot of time, people say, I want focus faculty to focus on a high quality research, but then you say you'll also have to do administration, you'll have to also raise money, you'll also have to worry about admission kind of thing. So somewhere ensuring that whatever ambition you have, whatever areas you identify where you want to focus, you want to make sure that, all your the processes and systems that drive. And related part is ensuring that, you're creating an institution which is not built around a leader. Because finally, the best legacy you're going to live is not success during your time, but success which after you leave. So ensuring that you create, the system and processes where it is not dependent on individual. So I'm saying at individual, at initially vision creation, obviously you play an important role, putting processes, but somewhere ensuring that the future of the institution, because we are talking about a 20-year kind of horizon, the one will have to make sure that you know the institution goes beyond oneself. Obviously, there are going to be challenges. For example, all of us face the challenge of a COVID, right? But I think somewhere making sure that we stay committed to certain long-term goals which we had in mind. For example, just to give our own example, we during COVID there were a lot of you know the suggestion that maybe we we drop our funding for research, but we decided that at IIM Udaipur we're going to continue same level of research funding, even though there are challenges during this. So there are going to be challenges. COVID was one example. Similarly, there are going to be issues which are going to ups and down, but ensuring that your long-term vision finally drives this. So let me, end this my talk with this summarizing once again that I think it's a great opportunity all of us have of, we need to use this. We are at a great point in time. We need to take advantage of this opportunity. And that's where this idea of building a vision, which is from a long-term point of view, identify a few areas on which you want to focus, ensuring you build culture and processes and systems, keeping that in mind, and make sure that you build an organization which is from a long-term point of view through system and processes. Your success is more in terms of how you build that part, and that would be your legacy. Thank you.